Furnace? Can you step the microphone, please?
Some here regarding the last meeting there about the decision of the softball coordinator, Brian McMonagall. What has come of that situation?
Hey, Jim, you want to respond?
The situation is the same. I did not rehire Jim Lau.
Delivery line.
Well,
You just sort of take the mic, please.
sure. Okay, as I stated in Jim's letter, we had some problems with him not following a town board policy and not enforcing it when asked to.
What was his policy?
Policy was no drinking in the park, no alcohol in the park.
When was he asked to do this?
1992.
92, and now you're catching up pretty kind of slow on time, don't you?
Well,
Yeah.
no, at the time, I...
Let me do also state, if there is a major problem of any other sequence as of an alcoholic problem that you're suggesting right now, on premises, I don't think it's his liability to take care of it, first of all, and the town of Van Buren, and the town of Lysander, their Parks Commission takes care of those problems. So why should that be laid on his head?
Because he was hired to do that, and that
He
was
is hired
in his
to
job
run
description.
the league, not babysit everybody.
That was in his job description. You know, every parks department is different.
Well, I can tell you, I'm down there every Wednesday night to play ball, and I don't see the problem down there.
Well, it has been there. We have a written constable's report, and since the last 2 years we did not have constables, this is not a direct, cause and effect thing, but there are bottles left on Thursday morning, and there aren't on other mornings.
Who's to say that the spectators aren't bringing it?
Pardon?
Who's to say the town
Wait
spectators
a
aren't
minute.
bringing
Yeah,
that?
Wait a minute. You asked her to give an explanation. She gave an explanation, and that, if you have questions afterwards, please do so in an
Okay.
orderly manner.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah, keep going. Go ahead, we'll finish up and then we'll ask.
Okay. And the other things were, we had several written complaints and a lot of verbal complaints. And the reason, to answer a previous question, why this was not taken care of in 1992 is that we were in the middle of the league, and we spoke to Jim about it. He refused to enforce this alcohol policy, so we had to take care of it ourselves by way of a letter, and I don't know how effective that was. And what was the other question? I can't remember. What else did you ask?
We just want to know why you made this decision. Besides that, keep
And
going.
the written and verbal complaints that we've had over the years.
Where did they come from?
League participants.
Are they not on file?
Yes, they are.
You have them with you?
And Jim was given a copy of every one that we received.
You have them
Yes,
with
I
you?
do.
Oh, that's possible, always.
No, I'm sorry. We talked to him about these. He came in for one particular case, and we sent, I mailed copies to him personally.
And do you have those copies tonight?
I have the originals, yes.
Is it for public view?
I think that would be up to Mr. Lau.
Oh, seeing that I've never seen him, I'd like to see him.
Is it Mr. Lau's job to police the park after the league is completely done, every night, every Wednesday night?
In what?
In the retrospective. Well, as a ball player, I've never seen anybody down there with alcoholic beverages. So people, when the
Well,
gates are left open,
I've heard
parties do
from...
go on up there at night. So then that falls back on Jim's responsibility, right?
Well,
He's supposed to come
no,
back.
no. We had a constable who reported this in writing that there was a problem with this particular group.
In
and
92?
Yes. And we addressed that with Jim at the time, and he refused to enforce the policy. It's a town board policy.
Did we forget 1993, 94 somewhere here?
Yeah, why did you rehire
Oh,
them?
yeah.
Wait a minute, one question at a time.
Cindy, you said that the constable, out of curiosity, 92, I think we spent $2,400. Last year, we had the first string really tight. 92, did we spend $2,400 on constables? Wouldn't that really, aren't they required to police that aspect?
Yes, and that's why it was written in that report.
Yeah, but wouldn't they alleviate the problem then if it was there?
Yeah, they would have to.
It-
I'm asking, I
Yeah,
mean.
it should have some effect, but also they're policing the whole area, and they're not standing right at the games, you know, at these games when they're being held, they may be up on the top, and it wasn't Jim's job description to do that.
It wasn't in the constable's job description to curtail drinking in the park, if that's the top.
Sure, they're there to enforce policies also.
Oh, okay. No, I
Yeah,
understand.
no,
So Mr. Lyle's supposed to be the police, and police around the constable is only supposed to be up on the hill, working down and make sure nobody else is doing anything up on the hill. I mean, you're contradicting yourself here. You're saying it's not the
You
constable.
asked for reasons, I think she's trying to give you some reasons why, and you're trying to
She's
justify.
contradicting herself in what she's stating.
Well-
She's saying it's the constable's job, and it's
No, I
not
said- no, I
Jim
said
Lyle's
so.
job.
The constable has a job, and also, she's stating,
I would expect that any employee from my department would be upholding policies that we ask them to uphold, and that the town board has set.
But you've said it's Jim's responsibility to walk around and watch people, but the
Yeah.
constable can't be in one spot of every place at one time. Neither can Mr. Lyle. He's one person.
Plus you want to hold him.
Am I correct? Am I
Yeah,
correct in
yes,
what your
you are.
statement that
Yes,
you made?
are.
You
He
said
has a smaller area, okay? But,
he's got three fields.
when we discussed this with him, he refused to enforce it. He said he would not do that.
I very doubt that. I highly doubt that
Well-
myself.
Well, this was 92, right?
This happened, yeah.
Was there any complaints
Yeah.
the years above?
Mhm.
Do you have proof of these complaints?
No, they're verbal complaints.
Verbal, okay. So
Right.
really, it's
Listen,
one,
I'm
it's
not
one
gonna
person.
Okay.
sabotage the program by not hiring a good employee back. You know, it doesn't make sense for me to do that.
You're right, but that's what you just did.
No.
Okay.
You're seeing it from the playing side, which is fine, but there are some administrative things, and these are the things.
But I don't understand,
And
you're saying
the reason-
he's not enforcing, this complaint came in 92, okay? The constables have been there, I spoke to them, I know almost every one of them, and I spoke to them, and not one of them had seen alcohol, not one of them says there was alcohol there.
That's right.
So why did they, that was in 92, what about 93, 94,
Okay, that's what I
95?
wanted to get into.
They would have written it
Yeah.
up then, right?
No, there were no constables in the last 2 years because of budget cuts. But the reason this was not handled in 92 and nothing was done was that we were in the middle of the league, and I didn't think it fair to all the ball players that didn't have any backup people at all to just, you know, dismiss someone and ruin the rest of the league. And then in 93, we did not get have anyone else apply for the job. In 94, the same thing. And that's why this all came up now, because we did have another applicant.
My hearsay that this applicant didn't file an application either, he was phone called about the job.
Absolutely not, absolutely not. That's absolutely untrue. I have the
Second,
application
secondly, I would like to know why we're hiring somebody out of town of Schroeppel.
because I had 2 applicants, and I was looking for the person who would agree to do what I needed done.
How do we understand if this guy's the best applicant? He's never run a league before in his life. No, he hasn't. Never.
Yeah. That's not the issue, though.
Well, it is the issue. Secondly, it's a town of Schroeppel. Wait a
Let's
minute.
get into the town.
First of all, you make 50% of our team members come from the town of Schroeppel. Why were not the presidents or the coaches, captains of each team notified about
We
this?
don't make 50% of the people come from the town. You get a
You do
discount
unless
rate.
they charge an additional fee.
You get a
What-
discounted
what-
rate
what
to
is- what is the
town
point?
fee.
What is the point? Why weren't the coaches or all the league members called about this problem and asked them what was going on about this problem?
It's not an efficient way to do business, you know? It just can't be. We don't have time to do that. If we had another person on staff, maybe, but that's
Oh,
not,
we're
that's
going to
not,
hire another part-timer.
that's not gonna work.
We've got 2 now, we don't have enough time, but we got 2 part-timers
Okay.
and a full-time.
okay.
We have, in the past, I'll just do the total here, we did some statistics on this, and if it weren't for non-resident teams, you guys wouldn't even have a program. The total teams, resident, this is for 92 through 95, we included this year. We have, resident teams, we've had 24 teams, and non-resident teams, 29 teams. And even if that were an even number of teams, they pay more, so more money is coming from outside anyway, quite a bit more.
May I say something?
Sure.
You're stating that this is doing business. I'm in a customer service sort of position, and in doing business, you make everybody happy, the majority happy. these gentlemen here and women that play the softball team, they're doing you a favor by bringing money into this community. You're not doing them a favor by changing who's heading it up.
If you look
So
at-
from a business point of view, shouldn't they be the ones that decide who should get hired?
No, I was hired to do that. I hire 40 people a year, and I look at what I have in front of me to use for these things, and I make decisions. That's why I'm here.
Then I like to apply for the job.
Feel free, it's not
Okay.
open, so I'm sure what you're looking
Okay, do you have something else you'd like to bring out, Cindy? I think,
I'm not gonna change anybody's mind, I wasn't here to do that.
okay. Mr. Lau,
Can I speak, please?
certainly.
First of all, I don't want to get into a he said, she said thing. You know, that's not why we're here. What I was concerned with is why I didn't get the job, like I told you the last time I was here. And when I called, all I got was people in the league wanted a change. At that time, like I stated, I had contacted 11 out of the 14 teams. Nobody had a problem. All right, then 16 days later, I finally get a letter stating why I didn't get the job. All right, in the past, you probably know better than I do, when I started, you said 92, 91, 92, 5, 6 years I've been doing the league. Whatever. I think Cindy and I might have talked over problems in the league maybe 2 or 3 times that I know of. I never got, to my knowledge, any letters from anybody stating that there was a problem. All right? And number 1 here, I'll read it out. Despite being informed by the town board policy regarding no alcoholic beverages at the park, you allow consumption of alcohol. I'm not going to disagree with that, all right? I did not see any alcohol on Wednesday nights. My job was to run the league. If there's any problems, to address the problems. My job was not to be there for 4 hours watching every little thing everybody does. That was not my job. My job was to watch the leagues, any problems, handle it, turn the lights on, turn the lights off. All right, keep the standings like that. I did not have to go walk over to everybody's little cozy and see if there was a soda can or a beer can underneath there or whatever. I mentioned to plenty of people on Wednesday nights that there was no alcohol in the park, if I did see any. On our co-ed league, okay, started back when we used to play on Sunday afternoons. When I took that, when I took that over, there was some drinking after the games, okay? At that time, I mentioned that to Cindy. Okay? I said, people, they treat it as like a little social outing after you get done playing ball. Not all the time. Once in a while, somebody might have a social drink while the kids play at the park, like that. And at that time, she told me, and like I said, she's going to not agree with this, but she said, as long as they stay under control, I don't have a problem. But she said, you watch it. I did. We moved to Friday nights, it's the same thing. On Friday nights, once in a while, not every night, once in a while, yes, somebody had a drink after the game. All right? I'm not disagreeing with that, all right? But again, nothing got out of control. I was never informed that there was a problem with this until I received this. Okay? All I want to know is why now all of a sudden there is a problem with it. Why wasn't I informed? Why did I have to wait till I reapplied for the job? There was a problem with it last fall, and she definitely was thinking about it, replacing me. Why wasn't I brought in and talked to? I asked if I could come in and talk to her. She said, no, you don't need to. There's a lot of unanswered questions here. They want to replace me. I have no problem with replacing me. But I should have been allowed the opportunity to come in and talk the situation over. And I was not. There's been, and getting back to her choice, as you can see, her choice, my opinion, was not the best choice for the town of Schroeppel. If she wanted to make a change, being a professional, she should have called me in the office last fall and said, Jim, I am pursuing another individual to run your post next year. Do you have any suggestions? Now that would have been the professional way to handle that situation, seeing that I've been in the job for that long. And I could have referred her to some people within the league, not an outsider that hasn't played in the men's league. And now, all of a sudden, to get this and get it treated like this, and, you know, after the last meeting 2 weeks ago, I filled out a Freedom of Information. If we're not trying to hide anything here, people, why didn't I receive that?
I don't know what it said, I haven't seen it.
Whether it's legal or not, if you're not trying to hide something, why didn't I receive it? What's the difference? Right or wrong?
I spoke to Dennis about it, and it's an
You have to talk to a lawyer about it.
It's an employee's application, and that is a law we're dealing with, so I asked him, and he said that it's not.
He asked to see the other applicant's
Yes.
application, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it have been nice to at least give him a phone call and notify him that that information is not available under the Freedom of Information Act? That would have been the professional thing
You
to
know,
do.
since we're handling this in such a professional manner, I thought it was handled pretty sloppily.
It's handled by your office.
You know, like I noted before, I'm in
Wait a
contact.
minute, wait a minute. Mr. Lau gave me the Freedom of Information application, and I forwarded it on to you. And Mr. Freeman, anyone can call him and get opinions, and I gave you what Mr. Freeman faxed, which I didn't even look at because I'm not an attorney or whatever, but don't say it was held in another office, because I immediately gave you a copy.
Yes, and I responded to it by
Yeah.
giving, because I was told that your office handled those and that was the clearinghouse, so I sent the response back to you.
What did Freeman say then?
I haven't read it, she just gave it to me, it's this thick, I just put it down, I'm not gonna say her read it now.
That's typical lawyer.
Case after case after case in there.
Oh,
You
yeah.
think I'm gonna figure that, when you
No,
read it, give it,
No,
give
I thought
it a
it was
thick,
a
and
decision, you're saying it was
Send it to your
cases
paralegal or your secretary.
that could go either way. You're saying it's case.
What did you just say?
I said, send it to your paralegal or your secretary. That's how most of the things get handled by you gentlemen.
Look, if you get a bitch with somebody else, that's all right, but you
No.
stay out my case, buddy.
I have a legal bitch with all lawyers myself.
Well, take it outside. Okay.
If you've got a problem, you take it outside.
Most consoling person I've ever met.
Like I was gonna say too, if there was a problem, I work with the community service department all winter long with basketball. You know, we're in contact. Why couldn't they call me and, or one of the times I talked to them, said something and we could have set up an appointment, talked this over. You know, I just don't think I was treated fairly in this matter at all. And I think it's up to the board to look at how it was handled. And this person application, and see if it was just. You know, because I don't feel as though I was treated fairly in this whole deal. And like I said, she says, he says, I don't want to get into that. Okay? She said she has the documents. I said I didn't get it. You know? So I just think, you know, it's up to the board to look this over and react on it. Because like I said, I don't think I was treated fairly, and I don't think she acted in a professional manner.
Just one thing. I think that the board did perceive when they initiated the new policy for hires, and we've now included volunteers as of the last meeting, a plan and a scope of giving our directors and the people who do some hiring in our town some guidelines. Apparently, there hasn't been anything on paper. We are addressing through continuing sessions of putting ideas together. In this matter here, I think, though it is too late for this specific case, can be addressed and handled with the work that we're doing now in writing some of the policies for hires, and we're probably going to include volunteers. I would like to see everybody who comes and approaches or submits their name to the town, a town coordinator, a town administrator, a town clerk, that at least it passed before the board before these hirings are made. These names, these people are hired, and the board is not aware of any past history of who's hired and for what reason people are not rehired. And I think that if we hire somebody with the board's knowledge, not necessarily, the board doesn't have to go out and do all the interviewing, but at least accept the recommendation and peruse the name, I think that in the future we may be able to avoid some of these things. But I also think that everybody who is hired should be evaluated. And at the end of each semester, at the end of each event or job description ending at the end of the year, there should be an evaluation form that is submitted to the supervisor. And I think that is already, I already read that part into what is one idea from the committee who's working on this. And I think that would alleviate the problem. We would have seen evaluations that were, if in fact these evaluations were good evaluations or bad evaluations, and then we would be able to address this in a more enlightened fashion. At this point in time, I feel rather helpless without any history other than what we're hearing right now.
President.
I forgot a couple things I don't want to leave any stones unturned here, you know? Other question I had, Cindy, can you let me know when his interview was, please?
I don't have it with me, but it was, do you remember?
It was a week later, he had the flu, so he canceled his initial, his wife called him, his initial. The following week, I called back to see if he was feeling better.
It was April 11th.
Okay. And the other thing I brought up, like I brought up to you on the phone before you, when you told me you were considering him, was that at the tail end of last year, during our playoffs, during the problems we had, you know, he made that statement
Right.
that he could have the job whenever he wanted it.
Right. They had nothing to do with anything. I would never take anything
Well,
like that into consideration when hiring.
Well, all I know is that he was pretty confident that he had the job whenever he wanted
How
it.
do you think he accomplished that then? I did not know this man. I met him April 11th. I talked to him on the phone a couple times before that, so.
I had no idea why, but he was pretty confident. And you can ask any one of 25 people how confident he was, too.
Well, he thought it was.
And she said that I received every letter of complaint, right? His last complaint for the co-ed, I never received it.
Okay, you're right about that one.
Thank you. How many other ones am I right about?
Yeah, amazing.
Mr. Patrick's overseeing the entire softball league?
No, he's since backed down because he doesn't want the aggravation of running them, so he wanted to just run co-ed.
So he's not overseeing. Are we still gonna pay him $700 a year for
No,
part-time?
no, 350.
Can we resolve the problem perhaps?
How much are we paying him for co-ed? You know, this is something else I brought up to this department. Town of Clay has a signer's fee. And I brought it up to this department 2 years ago, brought it up again last year, that even though it would have been cut in my salary, that we should be paying like $30 or $40 per team a signer's fee. Okay? Right now, we're paying $300 for the men, $300 for the co-ed. We have 10 teams in men, 4 teams in co-ed. Is that good business? Is it? No. Paying $300 for the same 4 teams as you are 10 teams. Where if you're paying a signer's fee, is up to how many teams you have in the league. That's the best way to run that. And I brought that up 2 years in a row, and I said, no, the budget's already been in.
Would the town clerk read into the minutes the letter that was requested to be read in the next?
This letter is addressed Thomas Schroeppel, Route 57A, Phoenix. April 30th, 1995, Thomas Schroeppel, Route 57A, Phoenix, New York. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, we are not able to attend tonight's meeting due to prior commitments, but would like to have this letter read to the board members. It has come to our attention that Jim Lau of Phoenix is being replaced by Ed Patrick of Fulton as coordinator of the Community Services Softball League. Listed below are some of our concerns to replace Jim Lau with Ed Patrick. During a co-ed softball game last year, Mr. Patrick showed very inappropriate behavior for being the captain of his team. He exhibited very poor sportsmanlike conduct. Is this the type of person we want to represent our community? Should we not try to hire from within our community instead of letting our tax dollars to be allocated outside our community? Jim Lau has been the coordinator for several years, and we have witnessed the many long hours he has taken to make the league run very efficient. In conclusion, we feel that Jim Lau has been replaced unjustly and feel that he should remain the coordinator of the Community Services Softball League. Sincerely, Susan and Bruce Petrie. What do I do with these petitions?
I would file those as a letter. Any other public concern?
I just have one more
We
question.
still don't have anybody for the girls' league, is that what you're telling me?
I have one for the girls' league, I have one for the co-ed league.
We've got one for the co-ed, but the men's league, which is, that's the big one. We don't have anybody for it.
Why can't we hire Jim Law then? For the men's league?
What co-ed league is there gonna be to run for Ed Patrick?
Okay.
Because three of the teams are represented here and we refuse to play under Ed Patrick. And we had a tough time getting 4 teams.
Okay,
Could I just say one comment to that? We have had teams actually drop out of this league and cite the coordinator as the reason for doing so. At least 2.
okay.
Pardon me?
2 out of how many years? That's not bad. 80?
You gotta look around, you have to park and see how the team's dropping off for,
Do we have any other public concerns this time?
I got a public concern paying somebody $370 to run a co-ed league that you don't know how many teams are gonna be.
Well, right now you have no teams. You have Ed
That's a big public concern.
Okay.
Then it won't happen and you won't be paid.
The coordinator is taking, will take that under.
I have one more question. Since I'm a taxpayer and I pay for the park, now, it's my reasoning then that I can go play softball at this park anytime I so choose, as long as it's not on a league night.
We have activities scheduled almost every night. Saturdays and Sundays are
Well,
less
since there's
used.
not gonna be a co-ed league Friday night,
You could essentially see if you could
then essentially I can go and get all our teams together and play Friday night, and therefore the town makes 0 money.
We don't make any money on this anyway.
But it's good for the town.
Absolutely not. It's break even. Yes. Yeah, it is. It has been.
How is it break even?
How is it break even? Every expense, every dollar that comes in from that program is put back in that program. We've got field maintenance people, our time. Field maintenance.
Stand in place up to your ankles.
Wow.
Mrs. Holler, do you want to bring your concern to the board this time? Yeah, you do. Mrs. Colville doesn't like it if you stay over there.
Blame me for everything tonight, huh?
Yeah.
I'm here about a pipe that was, a water pipe that was put under Camp Road last week. And now it dumps directly into my backyard.
Okay. And does everybody on the board have a chance to take a look at these personally? Take a look at the situation.
I understand they had a problem with the road and they needed the water to go somewhere. I don't think that's gonna solve it.
I'll let you
You
know.
know, it solves their problem, but this creates problems for the next people down the line.
Okay, we talked about this earlier with the highway superintendent, and, the concern was that this is a natural flow of water, okay? But as pointed out here by the attorney, that where this goes, that the natural flow of water has been changed. So there is maybe some reason for concern according to what he's seeing here in the pictures.
Right.
Okay. The other concern we had, and Earl, maybe you can help us out on that, is across the road is the county, and there was concern by the highway of that big willow tree there. Now, is that county's tree, or the concern was that it might be wrapped around the town's water pipes, the village's water pipes, excuse me.
could be, I'm not sure. You had called me, Bob, and I got the county out there yesterday around 11 o'clock to see exactly what's the best
Where the county's
solution,
property is.
and where the town's property is and where the county's property is. And of course, they had to go back to Oswego, get the maps, get the right-of-ways, go back to 1949, when it was changed over, and which they did. Bob Shad and Donnie Moore, the highway superintendent, was with me. We looked at the situation. They felt that there was no problem with them or county to put the water in the ditch. And we walked the whole ditch. The county's gonna clean out, it's about a third full of silt on that culvert right at 12. And then down on the river, we got down and looked up in there, and it's about, maybe that much silt in that culvert, which the county's gonna clean out. And I asked them, should it be deepened for the extra water or whatever? And they felt that there's about a 4 or 5 foot level across there, that this extra water that's getting there through seepage anyways would not be a problem, and that the contour of the creek would handle the water, so there wouldn't be any water on the road, and they thought that that would be the best way to do it. The question was, who owns the property? And I called them again today, and back in 1949, there was a Mr. Price that wanted the section between the two roads, because on most town roads at 49.5, it's a rod road, 3 rod, 49.5 feet. Well, from the center of both those roads going this way, there's a section through the center that doesn't quite meet. And this person in 49 wanted to buy it, but he never did. And that's what we were researching today, that yes, indeed, the county does own, well, the new 12 all the way to the right-of-way of the town road of Old 12. And is that a town road?
Yes, it is town road, we do receive the CHIPS.
Right, this is my question to Bob was, if we receive state money and CHIPS money, and actually if there's a pipe to be put in, these people shouldn't have to pay for it, because you're getting state aid for that road, and it's a town road, and it's a water problem. And the way it looks is, the problem is worse now than what it was. Before it would seep down, now it's there. And both Shad and Maury thought the way their lawn is, it's gonna go, when you do get heavy rain, through their lawn, and instead of going this way, it's gonna go around into the next neighbor's yard. And that the most sensible and easiest and most efficient way to do it is to put a pipe under the road. And then all the water is in the island and it goes to the river, and it's gonna help all those people down through there.
I think it'll have to be researched, as Wilson was saying, that tree, the big willow tree, might pose a problem. First of all, getting around roots.
Right, a problem with what, Bob?
A problem with getting across there and not disturbing the village water pipes that are coming up through there.
Right.
And getting across the road and putting that, and so it doesn't empty into that tree itself.
Can that go across at a different angle so it doesn't hit the tree?
I can't see why you can't go up or down, you know what I mean, and bypass the tree.
I don't know, I haven't looked at that.
The only thing I said to Bob was, I said, you don't want any liability with the village water. If you do anything to the village, to their water line, you're gonna have to fix it if you break it by putting it in. And, I don't know who would complain if something happened to the tree. I mean, I assume it's a big
Oh,
willow.
we don't want that tree, take it. Those trees are terrible, they're awful, they're old, they're just falling hard in.
But it would be the county's tree within the highway right away?
Well, you would have to face off 24.5 feet from the town road, and that tree would probably be down. The tree we're talking about, right?
I think,
you know what I mean? I mean, it would be.
I think the biggest problem was the concern of the roots of the tree maybe being wrapped around that village water pipe and doing the jostling of that, cutting across the road to lay the pipe in there, that we might do something to the village water pipe.
Can you do it right from the bumper road there and go straight across?
I'm not gonna say how we can do it. I think that the highway people will have to go back out and take a look at it and see. I think it'll have to be researched a little bit, more closely. Because that is a concern, that we don't dislodge those water pipes, in fact, because it goes up in the water.
When you put the pipe in, you mean, Bob?
Well, they're cutting it too, I think, they're all cutting the road and cutting that to lay the pipe in. Is a concern, getting there and making a cut. I think, ask the highway people to take a look at that again and see about going across here. Okay?
Basically, what you're saying, Dennis, is because the town altered the area, that we're responsible now for
No, it's-
correcting that flow.
no, I didn't say. You got a problem, if you're gonna try to alleviate the problem, I don't see any problem, any reason why it can't be done this way, that's essentially what I'm saying.
Okay, so I'll do some more looking into that situation, see what we can do with it.
And anything, the county can do, we'll be there to help for it.
They won't charge us for it. We can get one of those December 31st, $60,000 bills for
Okay?
no comment, okay.
That's about all I got to report on. The bids come back on 800 trunking May 5th. But it won't be, it'll be a list, well, that's what, Friday? It'll be a list of the equipment, and probably in about 2 weeks, we'll get the actual price of it. But they're supposed to have their bids in May 5th. For moving that slowly, sure. All right, okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Bob?
Not this time, no.
Okay, any questions from residents?
No state sales tax, or no county sales tax, right?
Not today.
Okay. Any other public concerns?
I have a letter.
Oh, okay.
May 2nd, 1995, Ron Rogers, Chairman, Town of Schroeppel Board of Ethics. Dear Ron, this letter is in response to your letter of April 17, 1995 to me. I was very disappointed to read that you were unwilling to respond to our letter to you on October 26, 1994. As per the Code of Ethics for the Town of Schroeppel, such written requests may be made to any member of the Board of Ethics, and advisory opinion shall be rendered pursuant to the written request of any officer or employee under such rules and regulations as the board may prescribe, and shall have the advice of counsel employed by the board, or if none, the town attorney. At no time did I or any of the remaining, as you call, non-complying employees refuse to sign the Level 2 Code of Ethics Annual Statement of Disclosure. We merely requested explanation of a few portions of the Town of Schroeppel Code of Ethics. Since the Highway Department employees are represented by the International Union of Operating Engineers, it was decided to have union representation on this matter. Our union business representative made at least 5 telephone calls to your home, either leaving a recorded message or a verbal message with your wife to have you contact him on this matter. Because of your lack of response to phone calls, a letter was written on October 26, 1994 to you, and a copy to each of the members of the Board of Ethics. At this time, I am told you contacted the union representative and informed him that you would be contacting the Highway Department employees to meet with them and answer any questions they had concerning the Code of Ethics for the Town of Schroeppel. As of April 17, 1995, you have not made any attempt to contact the Highway Department employees, and I have seen you enter and exit the Town of Schroeppel Municipal Building more than once and pass by the Highway Department office when doing so, without even so much as a hello. Recently, those in the Highway Department who have not filed ethics forms were notified in writing with their paychecks that they had until May 15, 1995 to comply or be subject to penalties. At that time, I contacted Sandy Conger and once again expressed our need to have some items in the Code of Ethics explained, at which time Sandy contacted you and you agreed to contact the highway employees and explain the items in question. Now you inform us that our request would not be best served by such a meeting. I and many of the employees and residents of the town fail to see the difficulty on your part in answering our questions. Furthermore, it appears that you are in violation of the Code of Ethics, as you have failed to comply with Section 9.10 by failing to render advisory opinions pursuant to our written request. We have been very patient in waiting from October 26, 1994 until now for your response, and feel that had you met with us as requested, our questions would have been answered and we would have been in compliance long before now. It has become apparent to us that you are either unwilling or unable to assist us in our request, and have chosen to label us as uncooperative and in defiance of town law. As stated above, we did not refuse to sign the statement of disclosure. We merely requested further explanation of some of the Code of Ethics. Once again, we feel that your failure to render advisory options is the only reason for our non-compliance. Considering the two options you have recently presented to us, we have reluctantly filed our Level 2 forms and did so under protest. Sincerely yours, Glenn Candy. Copy to Supervisor Robert Dalton, Councilman David Hanford, Joanne Silvers, Judith Brandt, Emilio Tassone, and Business Representative Bernie DeJoseph.
So you have a concern? So, you have a concern?
For the record, not everybody that works for the town of Schroeppel had those attached or given with their paychecks. In fact, the only reason I knew about it was I had read an opinion that was rendered by the state attorney general concerning that, and I found out that you can't do it every year, not just in one year. And that's when I stopped it. Kill two birds with one stone with a soccer registration, and that, but we weren't, that wasn't around. I do think, in as much as that, not everybody is a full-time employee, especially those like planning board members who only meet once a month, or we've got ZBA who may not, you know, they're basically on demand type thing. That those individuals, if they don't receive a paycheck, should be notified. I don't think it's a big.
This was on legal opinion, this was the way it was done. That was the lawyer's advice, that that's what we had to do. That it is the employee's responsibility to
Well, they
meet
better
the
make sure all
rules,
the employees
not the
have the rules
employee,
before
it's
you.
not the board's responsibility, the town board or the ethics board, to get them to do this. It's their responsibility as employees.
I don't disagree with that from this point in time, but this is the first year, and we're going into the second year, and I guarantee that there's 98% of the people that work for the town of Schroeppel have not even read through that. And we, the town board, do have a responsibility because we passed the law. So at least for this first year, we do have a responsibility to ensure, or I feel we do, that those people are at least notified that, yes, this is a yearly event. Because obviously, everybody's financial situation changes on a yearly basis. And I don't disagree with the long term, but
This is what the lawyer, this is one of the things we paid for with the advice that we got from him, was that it's not either board's responsibility to get this information to the people and get it back from them. It's their responsibility.
Put a reminder though, if they said, I mean, is that
I don't
really out of
know. I
line
know
that
there were
far?
letters addressed to every single person that works for this town, and that they were to have gone out to them.
See, and I didn't get one, and I told you that, and that's just an example of how things fall through. Now that I'm aware of it, I'll do it, but it would have went right out of my mind, I'll admit it.
But that doesn't, it still does not become the ethics board responsibility because people forget. Ignorance is not a defense.
no,
And-
I'm not saying that, but I agree
And
that
the
in the
board
long
was
term-
very, very concerned about how much responsibility we had to get this to the
We
people.
don't have to defend the board. I don't think anybody's arguing that on the long term, because I think from this point in time, probably everybody knows. But this was the first year that, yeah, but everybody knew, but, you know, I didn't know I had to read, I mean, it's perfect logic that you You do, but I didn't really realize it, you know, and I'll tell you one thing, if I had missed the May 15th deadline, I'm sure that somebody would have mentioned it to me real quick.
Just one brief question. Marie, did you put the letters from Glenn in our boxes? No, because I didn't get one either. I didn't put them in.
I didn't know.
Sure.
Well, it's on the subject, is at the county level, we don't even get a notice. I get a phone call and say, hey, have it in the May 1st, your disclosure, and that's it.
You got a phone call though, right?
No, I think Bruce Clark just came up to a legislative meeting, says, I think it was in
Yeah,
February.
well, you were notified.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so,
You know, and I really don't see what the big deal is. It's a state law, you gotta apply to it, and the amounts are very vague.
I don't think anybody cares about that, but
You know,
as I said, if you got people out there who don't know, there are people out there who don't know that they have to have this in by the 15th, and there's a lot of people around here in the situation in this town, as you well know, that if they don't have it in by the 15th, they're gonna hear about it. And I think the first year we do have an obligation. And I think Mr. Clark also feels the county has an obligation if he was kind enough to at least bring it up in the.
right, but it's an every year thing, you know, so, I'm sorry.
So,
I just wondered if, routine questions. I was just wondering if you'd heard anything from Mr. Marks yet, and if there was any further.
I called her this afternoon again, and I'm going up tomorrow. I just not getting anything.
He's just not,
There are 3 things I'm waiting to get back right now.
but he doesn't.
That's one of them. I didn't talk with him. I tried to talk to her, no, she wasn't there.
Okay. So that's what we're waiting for on the master plan, huh? The other thing, I was just wondering if there'd been any further thought given to, you know, with all these reports and everything that Fulton sent down, if there'd been given any further thought given to, you know, inviting Fulton to come down and talk about what they might need from the town for.
we're waiting for a copy. You get your copy of the report so we can send it around, spread it around so people can read it.
Well, I had a copy made for myself.
Okay.
Yes, and of that report, yes, I perused it. I haven't studied and yellow marked it and stuff like that.
And I don't know whether you only made the one copy. That was only requested.
Because I'm the only one that asked. I'll make more.
Well, I thought you were
Well,
going to.
it's quite a,
Yeah, well, why don't you make one for each one of the board members?
okay.
Do it first.
I wouldn't make them with the maps.
No.
No, you couldn't, just a smaller map. You couldn't do it up to big map.
Okay, so, all right, so you don't really know that's, we don't know when that's, you're gonna make any decisions about that or any further actions with Fulton on? That's a no too, okay? Number 3, could you tell me what the status of the litigation with the town pit is? You know, that.
The highway department went out and did the repose. Right now, I think they're waiting for DEC to come and okay. I haven't heard the DEC is okay to work done.
Okay, so as soon as the DEC okays it, then you would proceed with the further transfer of property that's required. So that's, we're always waiting for somebody else then. Okay?
All the work's done. Can we send Mr. Klein a registered letter to the effect that we expect him to continue?
He had sent a letter to the board, to be read to the board this evening. It says, I have been over to the road leading the Boy Scout gravel bed owned by the town of Schroeppel, and I see there has been some sloping work done. The stakes I had set on my line have been removed. Now I don't know where my west line is located. I need to have my surveyor come and set new stakes and check where the line is in regards to the bank slope. However, after staking my west line, we find there's not enough room for egress and ingress to the town bed. I will need enough land to the town of Schroeppel for ingress and egress. This is today's 3rd, this was yesterday. It's in my box today.
So, does that mean that there's a possibility you may be no land?
I don't know what that means. I suppose it
Well,
could be
the
interpreted.
wording, I think the wording in there said, If there, if
I will
there,
leave enough land in the town of Schroeppel for ingress and egress.
if there is not enough.
I suppose if you have,
We determine that.
yeah.
I think that was the agreement that we agreed to in our meeting.
The agreement was to get that road so we wouldn't have a problem.
Right.
1,500 feet triangular spot is what the agreement was. It's been changed.
we said
It's right here.
But I think we determine whether there's not room or not.
It's right here. It's a triangular parcel of land 100 feet along the road by 30 feet in width at the back. This is 1,500 square feet of land. Please contact me as soon as possible to advise me as to whether your attorney will prepare the deed or if I should do so. This is from Dennis.
That's a letter.
This was in January 5th. And now I was out to the gravel pit and the slopes look like great job to me. And in fact, Glenn said he's not sure that the DEC will come and look at it. He sent them a notice if they would like to, but it was almost his opinion that they probably won't. If he says he's done what he's supposed to and it's been satisfied, they probably will not come. So that may not be an issue.
Okay, well, he didn't say that to me, so.
Well, the original
Well, if
The
that's-
original
I
done
think
in
signing the
January
letter
has
would
been
be a good
changed
idea that-
a million times, but this was the original agreement, was it not, Dennis? Yeah.
We gave him the figures, he didn't give us the figures. He said he would give us, my agreement with him was he'd give us what we needed. Those figures came from Glenn's measurements at that time. I didn't say to him, give us this or give us that. I gave him those measurements in that letter. That's the first time he was aware of the measurements. Unless he talked to Glenn.
Yeah, but does that letter signed by him, the letter which is?
No, it's a letter signed by me, the one she read. This one's signed by him.
Oh, I see, okay. So there's a possibility that there may be no transfer of property at all?
I can't answer that.
I don't know.
Well,
You see, the problem was that we had agreed to do it this way in deference to doing it any other way. And now it seems like the agreement that we agreed to has been broken or made to be broken. And therefore, feel taken.
yeah, that was the impression the Pope was sort of given too, is that the original request, I mean, and I made it basically, is that and as a matter of fact, the town agreed to look into litigation, or what were the legal ramifications of what was going on here. And there was a motion actually, in fact, to do that. I mean, there was a resolution.
The big bone of contention was the road and we having possession of the road. To my knowledge, that still is not, there's nothing here that indicates that he doesn't still have that responsibility. Whether the road bed is to be 20 foot wide or 25 foot wide, but the bottom line here is he's gonna have to deed something over so we don't run into problem with the access. So something's gotta be deeded over, that's what our agreement was. Because literally, if you look at it, between the purchase of the one piece of property and what we spent man-hours and time, we've literally spent thousands of dollars on this
Oh, I know,
property.
that's what I was
That
trying
we
to get
did
at.
not create.
Well, that's what I was trying to get at, is that this, we seem to lost, what we're getting down to now is that the town and the taxpayers have paid $2,500 to right a property owner's wrong that was done as a result of Mr. Klein's actions on that pit. We paid for it. There were trees that were removed that may have been very valuable trees. I was seeing some old notes and some old records, and in fact, there was a bid put for several $1,000s for trees in the town pit. Red oaks and white oaks were, I think, were $300, $400 a tree. That issue was never addressed. Then it was clearly illegal removal of trees from the town property. And then there was the issue of the illegal mining. So what that last letter seems to sort of indicate is that Mr. Klein is willing to deed any property that, if property is needed, for access. So in fact, if the town decides there's no property needed for access, what we have here is illegal actions of mining, illegal taking of trees on town property, payment of taxpayers' money to right a wrong committed by Mr. Klein, and Mr. Klein gets off scot-free. Not even a slap on the wrist. I mean, there's, so that's why, I mean, I was very adamant about requesting that there should be some litigation, and the explanation I was given was that, frankly, litigation would cost more than we could get out of them, and that's probably true if we're planning on getting absolutely nothing here. But I do think, again, that there was
that's a terrible precedent for this town to set. It really is. That means that any one of us could come on town property and basically vandalize town property. And the town would pick up the bill, basically. And that's, I can't fathom that. I mean, I really can't, I don't understand it. I somehow suspect that there are very few people in this town who can get away with that. And I certainly know I wouldn't be one of them. So I would really, you know, I really would like to request that my understanding of it was that there was to be a transfer of property, and that this was, and the point of the transfer of property was not simply just to make the town right, but the point of the transfer of property was that Mr. Klein should transfer something of value that he had to the town in return for the something of value that he took from the town. So it isn't just a matter of making sure that we had a right of way to get our trucks in to satisfy the DEC requirements, that there was a principle of justice and of law here. And that if that wasn't going to be done, and it's beginning to look like more and more that it's not going to be done, then again, I would request that the town go back and look at literally at litigation. Because my understanding was that this was a settlement, an out-of-court settlement, so to speak, in lieu of in-court litigation.
So were you in the ethics, or in the executive sessions when we had these?
No. Why?
I just wondered.
No, this is the stuff that's come out over in town board meetings. In terms of, that's why I was asking. That's why I was asking about the letters. But that was the understanding that's been given in several town board meetings, and again, mostly in response to my questioning, was that this is what was supposed to happen. There was supposed to be a transfer, and there was
I
money.
think the letter was just read anyways. I think, my personal opinion is, I think Mr. Candy knows our needs better than Mr. Klein. No offense, but Mr. Candy is, Wilson and Glenn are operating in that area all year, and they know what our requirements are now and future requirements. And to be honest, 30 by 100 to me is not inordinate.
I don't think that's a problem, but if there's a problem with survey stakes, whether there is or there
That's
isn't.
his problem. That's not our problem.
We cannot set up a line if we don't have one.
We had, the perfect thing was cited with the other owner that was involved. In essence, the other owner had to go out and put the...
I believe Mr. Klein said he was going to take care of it. I don't think that was a question. He just wanted the line there before we set up where we were going to put the
The implication, I just want to make it clear that the implication here is that the board is going to decide what it needs here, not Mr. Klein.
Is there any kind of time?
Because that was part of our agreement. And I don't think it's unreasonable. We're talking about, 30 by 100 feet. I mean, let's be real.
I think that is the most logical solution is for Mr. Klein to give us the 30 by 100 and that this issue be resolved once and for all.
He's making an issue.
That was my understanding. I extended myself quite a bit in support of that particular solution to the problem, the getting land, and I thought that it was a way for the town and all the parties involved to come out in a just manner, and the words justice, what I think were used. And I believe that the 30 by 100 feet would be less of a cost than having a survey done. I can't understand it.
You don't need a survey to draw.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but if he's going to call a surveyor in to put a stake in, that's going to be more costly than what it is to figure out the property.
Problem
It
is
doesn't-
Mr. Klein keeps calling the shots here, and the
Well,
town just keeps jumping through the hoops.
I think sometimes logic tries to call the shots, Joanne. I think there is a perception but I think that there comes a time when logic has to prevail again, and that the solution, the one that we came up with, I think that we stated in public is the solution, and I think that we should adhere to it.
I want to direct Dennis to writing a letter to that effect.
I was going to say, is there any time frame for this?
Well,
Why don't I just prepare a deed and mail it to him for signature?
okay.
I mean, what am I gonna say in the letter? I haven't to say about it.
Fine, fine.
Essentially,
He
yeah,
doesn't-
I'll do what you tell me, but
If he chooses not to sign it, then what recourse do we have after you've gone through the motions of
I'm
doing
gonna
it?
tell the board he wouldn't sign it, and you do what you wanna do.
I'll take it.
Can you establish a time frame for this? I mean, a certain amount of time and within which he has to return it, otherwise you could just say,
Actually, by
well,
the next town board meeting, it's 2 weeks.
Doesn't take very long to put a signature on this too.
Can you match that down? Time-wise, and
It'll be 3 weeks.
Is that in the form of one?
I don't think it needs to be, but if you want it to be, we can make it a motion.
Move it, I'll second it.
I'll move it.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
I'd like to have the motion repeated.
That the original agreement for the 30 by 100 foot piece of land that the board understood to be a solution for all parties in the issue of the entrance, the exit and entrance at the gravel pit. I lost myself where I was. That Mr. Fine be asked to sign the deed concerning the transfer of property, and so that this issue can be totally resolved in quick fashion.
What kind of a date do you want me to give him?
Well, it depends on when he gets the letter. He may want to talk to council himself.
You want to make it meet me the 17th or the 7th of June?
June 7th
You're
will
gonna
be
have
3
a letter?
weeks.
I've got to prepare a deed. And,
All right, well, then make your motion. You're going to be saying.
I mean, it doesn't take that long to get the deed out, but if he wants to go have somebody else look at the description, you know.
How long would it take to get the deed out there? Is he talking a day or 2 or a week or what? I don't know.
What's today?
Today's May 3rd.
Probably Monday. I got a secretary on honey.
Oh, gee. So,
I'm thinking by the 17th, by our next meeting. I mean, he's known about this long enough.
He'll give him 9 days if we get it Monday.
second that one? Second.
You got it, Marie?
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
What's one name?
Okay. Yep. So,
Kind of got lost on the wayside here, but what was the decision made over here with Parks and Recreation? There wasn't a decision.
decisions with the community service director.
that wasn't something that was, I mean, that was, they were talking, but the board was not making a decision
Oh,
on
I
it.
just was asking the board that you're running the meeting. I mean, the decision's left up to her now?
What you're saying is the decision has been made.
Pardon?
The decision is saying it's been made.
Well, I kind of lost it in the shuffle then.
There's another point that you brought up, and we quickly transgressed out of that area, so, but I think at the same token, so people are aware, one thing to my knowledge that we haven't done, and I believe we began doing something to truly review. I've always been totally opposed to a blanket percentage increase as far as when we're discussing budgets, you know, for personnel. And I think that when we look at our department heads, that we as a board should evaluate those department heads so they know when we have a problem as well.
Evaluation.
No, that's right.
Right.
And I thought you were leading to that, but it sounded more as the department heads evaluating the people.
There has to be
They should-
evaluation of all.
Right, I mean, at the same token, if there's a problem in management technique and that type of thing, and that we as a board should let our department heads know our feelings, and the only time we really have that option is when it comes to raises.
And evaluations.
Right.
You know, and
But I mean-
evaluations are.
What I'm trying to do is get away from saying, okay, everybody's gonna get a 3.5% increase, because that's not the way to, there isn't anybody in the world, I mean, maybe you can say cost of living, but there should be merit tied to everything. And if somebody is gonna get an increase or they're not gonna get an increase, they should be reviewed every year, and you can look at the overall picture that, let's say the town was gonna give a 4% increase across all, you know, across the whole town, but there has to be that merit part of an increase to go along with it. So what I'm in essence proposing with respect to that is that you look at cost of living, and this should be worded somewhere in there, as well as merit, with respect
Well,
to.
what I would suggest, Dave, and this is what Geraldine and I have been doing, is ideas come into our head, we write them down, and then we review them between us. And I would suggest that you, if you see a concept developing in terms of the board doing some evaluation of department heads. Yeah, pardon. Okay.
Well, no, I know
And-
for a long time, these guys both, well, I've always said I don't like across-the-board increases. And the
But
best
I
thing
know, what
to
I'm
do,
saying is that you're saying also, as I understand what you're saying two things. Evaluations, the pay increases should be tied to evaluations. If someone has a negative evaluation from a department head, we shouldn't be saying, oh, you did a terrible job and here's a pay increase, you know? Okay, so, what I'm also hearing you say is that if a department head is evaluated and gets a negative evaluation, that should also be reflected in terms of, is that basically?
yeah.
Yes, I have a question in regard to his comment. Let me make sure I understand this. The board is in full agreement with hiring a person outside the town of Schroeppel to perform the softball coordinator position, and I'd like a roll call vote.
I think the board is in agreement that it is the department head's prerogative to do the hiring for the department.
And as the board, you're supporting her hiring decision of going outside the town of Schroeppel, is that correct? I'd like to go around the table. Mr. Sassone, is that correct?
At this point in time, as I understand from legal counsel, that the hire, without the policy being finished, and this is why I apologize for this policy that doesn't exist, this hiring policy which doesn't exist, which is right now in the time frame of being written up.
Okay.
Since it doesn't, this particular hiring falls under the Department of Social Services, therefore the director's hire. I don't know if we can.
Yes, that's what.
And as an elected official, you are supporting her to hire someone outside the town. You are supporting the tax dollars to go outside the
No,
town.
we're not saying that. We're saying we're supporting her right to make that decision who to hire.
And as a result of her supporting her decision on who to hire, you are in essence supporting her sending tax dollars outside this town. Is that correct? Yes or no?
It's a situation where we're in a catch-22.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I know,
but you have to give me an answer. I've asked a question, it is in the minutes, and I am asking you for a yes or no. Are you supporting the decision to send the tax dollars outside the town of Schroeppel?
First of all, we do not have to answer your questions. These meetings are between us, not between the public and us.
So you don't feel...
Secondly, yes, I support Cindy's decision that she has the responsibility, and right now, it is her job, and I support her job.
And as an elected official of this town, you feel that you owe the members and the taxpayers of this town no responsibility to answer their questions?
I didn't say that, and we allow that, but I'm telling you, the meeting is not, it is not in the minutes that we carry on and discuss all of our decisions with the public during this meeting.
Okay.
That's why we have public concerns that you can come up and talk. But when once the meeting is not between us and you, the meeting is between the 5 members.
So as an elected official, you won't respond one-on-one whether you agree or not during this public concern discussion?
I'm saying we do not, that is not part of the minutes of this meeting, that we have to answer your questions
Fine,
in a
but
roll
I'm
call
asking you
vote.
as an elected official.
And I
will
told
answer
you,
questions?
yes, I do support Cindy's right to make this decision.
Okay. So you support her decision to send money outside town of Schroeppel?
If that's what her decision was, I support her right to make that decision.
And Dave Hanford, do you support that decision?
No, I don't support sending the nickel one out of Schroeppel. I don't think anybody truly does, but it's not a question.
But that's not the question.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is, that's what she's asking.
We have to support, I support Cindy, and if she made that decision, then I have to live with that.
then you're supporting her decision.
Right.
That's
Supporting the decision, yes or no?
It's not tax
What?
dollars, it's money comes from these people and put that.
That's right.
And also, I doubt that any, policy that the board comes up with is going to say you have to hire someone from the town of Schroeppel.
You can't do that, well, I'll tell you right now, and I think, and I'm gonna go back to Emilio, and this is not a scapegoat or anything, but the bottom line here is that and you can say what you want, but it has always been assumed, may not have been written, but it's always been assumed that you always give the town people the number one break. The other thing I have to agree, and I'm not going to get into a critique because, quite frankly, what I was trying to refer to with Emilio is that this critique should come at the time of increases. When you hire somebody in a management position, and you hire your subordinates or whatever you do, your auxiliary personnel or whatever you want to call them, but your coworkers, you hire somebody to run Department X, Y, Z. That person runs Department X, Y, Z. When they do the job that you don't think they're doing, that's when they get called on the carpet. When we can call these people on the carpet is when budget time comes up. Do I agree with I can't, you know, I don't want to critique management style. There's things, I've been in management probably for the last 20 years. And I guarantee I've screwed up on the way I approached a management decision, the way let's say I had an employee that I let go or something. I may have made a mistake there. Do I agree with, my personal opinion is, I don't want to get into the hiring and firing of people. What I want to see, I want to see who's being considered, because in a lot of cases we don't know, and you find out 3 weeks later, and then you say, well, I knew 5 other people who wanted the job. So I think that, you're going to see that in writing from this point on. I think there's how this whole situation was handled, I personally don't think it was handled that well, and I may not have done it the same way, but maybe I would have screwed up too. But what I'm saying is how you approach a job, that's up to the individual. If we have a problem with the management of a certain department, then we have to bring it up during the time that we can really address it. We can't address it now. We've given Cindy our vote of confidence last year, and we have to abide by the department heads, because if you get into highway and every particular thing, I may not agree with what she did. But at this point in time, we have to let her do her job, because that's what it is. That's her job, that's what we hired her. That's not to say that I'm not going to be a little bit on the stubborn side when it comes September. But Cindy's used to that with me, I think.
Maybe this will help. Before I get my notebook yanked out of my hand by a nurse at the hospital, you want to know what I was doing. And this is the, and I was concerned about this, and I indicated that 2 weeks ago. And under policy for new hires, appointments, and volunteers, all new hires will have their names and recommendations submitted to the town board no less than 2 calendar weeks before the new hire is notified of his or hers employment. All volunteers will also be submitted to the board for perusal and approval, following the same procedure of new hires. In other words, what I'm saying is that we should be notified, and if we see that there's going to be a change, we then can ask the questions in a manner where this is really not right forum to be talking with personnel. I personally had, at the beginning of the session here, I had some very uneasy feelings for us to be talking about personnel, because you can get into some serious problems in that area. But lacking this policy, and this is how concerned I think we all are here, that we know that there needs to be something addressed here, and we're working on it.
Was this
And
not in the works though before the issue?
no. But I think that this is,
Yes, it was.
well, no, it was in the works in terms of getting a new personnel policy. But I'm adding this, no, this was all began, I explained that 2 weeks ago, Cindy. We had already read some of the stuff that Geraldine and I have come up with, and I think this is something else that we're going to go over and refine, and hope that Dave submits something that he has to include. I think you were on the right track earlier when you talked about reviewing the previous year with some kind of an evaluation.
Bob, because a lot of it, we're new. I mean, 4 years is new to this business. But at least we have a little track record, and I know darn well, that since day one, you find out about, I mean, you have to give your department heads latitude to do things, but you find out about the hires after the fact, and I don't know how many times I've heard after the fact, well, I knew so-and-so needed this, and I so-and-so, and you could have probably dug up 3 or 4 other people that you've heard of that may have been interested. And I think just by virtue of the fact, by having that in place, if nothing else, it's going to stimulate us to at least get
Right,
out
and
sure.
on 2 or 3 occasions in the past, with the other situations that I've worked in, a board member would say, you know what, I'd like an executive session on that one particular name that was submitted. I heard something, I'd like to discuss it in executive session. And you take that name off the list for approval, and you call the director in, or the principal, or whatever the situation is, and you review that particular item, and you do some investigative work, simply because you have that many more eyes and ears out there hearing about certain things. And I think that wouldn't be a bad idea here, and that's why I'm including it in terms of policy.
And you know, with respect to city's department or any other department, had we known this well in advance, or at least known the players, we may have averted too very
I agree.
trying for everybody.
Okay, I'd like to move into the regular meeting.
Are you gonna answer my question, or do they not have to?
Do they not have to, that's,
I don't know what else to say. I agree with Dave. I mean, no, I don't approve of it going to someone outside of town. That's not it. But on the other hand, it's Cindy's job, and I wasn't in her shoes, and I wasn't in the situation.
Right.
And if I'm gonna say, you know, I can't judge her, what she did, because
I'm
it's
just
too
trying
tight
to get a feel for where the board is, and if they feel that Mr. Lau was treated fairly, and if they support sending our tax dollars, or support bringing in people that don't even live in the town of Schroeppel to run town of Schroeppel activities.
I don't think so. I think we'd all like to see town people, people. It seemed like you guys were pretty happy. I don't know what happened, but it all got out of
Who
control.
made the decision as a department head? I don't think the question was that, do we agree that it should go outside? I think the question is, we're supporting a personnel person who has charge of the department.
I could answer it with, I'll add, the number 3 Roman numeral sentence, and this is stopped exactly where she included, all new hires or volunteers will be residents of the town, and that's where she aimed it out. And then somewhere in there, there's going to have to be some kind of an exception, because if we don't get people. But at that point in time, I was totally turned off by
I think,
particular nurse.
along with that, I think that, you know, the people who run their programs should be called in for review too, not just be left out in the cold.
It's part of the policy.
And I think that.
The problem is, we don't have any written policy in the town, and that's what we're trying to develop. And any suggestions?
That become a big concern with us.
Okay.
We still saw, there is, I'm a little confused, there is no one running the men's league now?
It's been advertised, right? It's really-
Okay, if no one applies for that job, is Jim Lau gonna get it back?
No, it comes down to leave.
Okay.
Cindy has stated she will not hire her back, so that's where we are.
I think so. What's gonna happen to the league?
Yeah.
Go on strike. At the low, at the break.
I was just wondering if there was any job descriptions for department heads or any employee of the town?
Again, part of policy is being written. There's not, if you look around, there hasn't been anything written, to my knowledge, in dealing with this, with any of this, just like I try to find something about policy for hiring. It's all, I went to the oldest person, not necessarily Marie, the oldest person, but worked in the town, and asked because he'd been on the town board before and everything, and he was not aware of it. It was a policy that was verbal, it was, sort of understood. So again, that's, starting the year, that's why I asked Dave and Emilio, because they've been with people and hiring and so forth, that they would sit down with, and Geraldine has said that she would sit with them and write some policy for the town, so we have something in writing, so there is a question such as we're facing now. Well, here, it says right here in this paragraph.
Is there job
The
description?
only job descriptions that I'm aware of are the ones that the individuals are civil servants.
Yes.
Those are the only ones who technically have a job description.
I guess as an employee of the town, if you were going to evaluate me, what are you gonna evaluate me on if I don't know what my job is?
Don't you have a job description in your union, though? Because you're being paid at a certain rate because of your job description?
It's not really wrote out totally.
Well,
First of all, the union personnel, I believe that we discussed that you're falling under union contract and that your department head.
I'm not just concerned
Yeah.
with just my own.
Yeah, okay, but you would probably fall under a more liberal evaluation because of your.
You're sitting there talking about evaluating people, such as Cindy, or Cindy evaluating Jim, or Wilson evaluating me.
Right.
We have to know what our responsibilities are in order for you to evaluate what we've done.
You're absolutely right, and there's nothing written. You asked me the question, there's nothing written. For civil service, when I talk, most of the people here aren't now, well,
There's a clerk position.
you wanna get into this? You
No,
wanna answer
no,
this question?
I think that's why we have a policy.
question.
I think in your office, the only one who technically is under the Civil Service Act is Sandy, is that correct?
I think Cindy is too.
I consider it non-competitive,
Yeah.
right, still,
Non-competitive, but
but
so.
it's still
It's okay, you wanna get into the difference
It's just the
between the
difference between
competitive?
taking a test.
The competitive ones are defined. Non-competitives are defined at this level. So the answer is still no, we don't have descriptions, and yes, you're 1,000% right, there has to be descriptions, and that requires the department heads to supply those. If they're gonna evaluate them, they have to let you know what you're being evaluated on.
Mr. Dalton, we only have like 2 department heads, because like Geraldine is elected, I'm elected. What department heads do you have besides Cindy and Bill Farley?
Oh.
That's the only 2 department heads we have?
All the elected officials, their duties are
Twelve and town.
law.
So there's only,
Where the problems come up are in, we've already faced it, and the other place that we do have an option to define, but it's only at contract time, is in the highway department. And if they're gonna do an evaluation as an individual as a heavy equipment operator or whatever, they've gotta have some type of description, although that is outlined very loosely in the contract. You know, as far as pay, but not as far as their ultimate responsibility.
But I would believe that especially the highway department, the areas of concern there would be promptness, ready to be worked when they show up.
Again, they're not written down.
No, but, right.
No, I think just, if you look at the highway department, you got different class of drivers that Wilson was talking about that are gonna have to adhere to new drug testing and a few other things. And they're more specific. You can't throw somebody who doesn't have experience onto a heavy piece of equipment if they're not qualified to do it. I mean, so I think they actually have to have more definition than, and I make
That may be
this,
something we have to tell the to do.
oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. No,
Okay, can we move on to the regular meeting?
Yeah, I got a question on something else here too. Oh, you're gonna sit me, on this, ethics, all right, concern I have over it, I had to stop up, when I was up to Community Service Department, I filled mine out, Sandy gave me, I filled it out, no problem. They weren't allowed to give me my wife's because they have to sign for it, okay? At that time, she received that letter that you were talking about, and she called Reverend Rogers, I think it is. First time, never received a call back. Called again, he left a message that he'll mail it out, which is, this is right here, okay? We got a notice in the mail saying that we have a certified mail, we have to go down to the post office, pick it up. I went down to the post office, I signed for it, same thing I could have done, all right?
It costs us taxpayers, no, it's not, I didn't say yours, I'm just, costs us the taxpayers $4.13 that, you know, I signed for, you know, all right, you know. I think that's a concern. I don't know if there's anything that, you know, any different way or whatever, but I mean, that's something that, I don't know how many of these were mailed out or whatever, you know.
Only the second one who was cutting her break, because she said she had, he never gave me the reason, but he said he talked to her. She seemed like a nice girl and sincere. She could not get it in, but I mind sending it out certified, cutting her break.
You know, if they want people to sign these, you know, like that, I think they should have hours where a working person can get in and get these stuff and sign for them. You know. And one last thing, can I have a copy of all that stuff?
Regular meeting, I'd like to ask for a budget transfer to the attorney's account, contingent account, to pay for Hancock and Estabrook Empire Pipeline bills in the amount of $1,751.64. Yeah, for 500. So moved. The second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
That's what Grant made the motion.
That's okay, I don't.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to pay the general vouchers 220 to 245 in the amount of $5,275.40. And highway 5120 to 5129 in the amount of $1,566.81. Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Everybody, eh?
Yeah.
Dog kennel. The other thing, if you've had a chance to look at the maps, the bill part, would like the maps back on the dog kennel area. If everybody had a chance to peruse the paperwork that was attached to yours,
He only wants to map that.
the map back, yes, the maps,
These
these maps.
are the number of matches you're gonna need for continuing the procedures?
Well, no, the procedure is right here with us. It's, maybe Dennis could, understand it, that, explain it, I don't understand it.
Since it's a town building, all we have to do is, we did the short form, other than that, we're exempt from our own regulations.
What is the state mandated this?
We have to have something in place by the end of the year. What this paperwork here does is give us,
Where's the town of Lysander's got something now, or?
I'm not know, Dave, I don't know.
I'm just trying to, you know, people say, well, we could spend $30,000 on whatever, but we get
Well,
one.
I'm over doing this.
Can we do?
Well, yeah, we can contract with the town.
This for the house?
Yeah, because the town of Oswego is contracted with a private outfit. But I don't know, but they're not a class 1 town, so I don't know if they have to supply a kennel. So,
You're gonna have 12 animal cages, is that, as I see it?
there's 6 indoors and 6 out.
Wait, they may not have to, but if they want, if they contract with us,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
take their animals and
yeah,
them and take care of them.
right, yes.
Under the general municipal law, they can enter an intermunicipal contract and have this town provide services, just like the county pays us to do the streets, exactly.
So, this is this a kennel, a dog kennel? Or is this, what I'm trying to get at, are we gonna have to, should Mr. Hankey should be looked at as animal control
In
and
the
not,
future,
I mean, this is not gonna house just dogs, I mean, we may have other animals that houses, correct?
I don't know whether, the town
At this
law.
point in time,
Not cats, but it's against the law, for them to take cats.
I think eventually you're gonna end up making him or whoever's in that position, animal control officer.
Yeah, but.
Is that
well,
something
this-
we have to do at this point in time?
And after that, you should get the facility, I would think.
Okay, I will retract that. No questions.
So, any other questions on the count?
And it's all septic?
Do it back. But I thought maybe with the new, that we could go underneath the railroad tracks with septic systems. Seriously.
We mean that into the,
Yeah, with the new, day development.
a sewer district
Yeah.
for our county?
Yeah. Right now it has two because
Do we charge the individual dogs for the write-off?
as the engineer explained to me that the multi-flow would not be the type to use here because there would be not enough material going into it on a regular basis to activate and keep that activated biological system going. So this one here has two different septic systems.
Maybe we could hook up the, out back to that and solve two problems with one.
So I will entertain a motion to proceed with this paperwork.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving right along. We're going back to Bill. For the, we have a request for two lights. One is a corner street light at the corner of, Canal Road by Mrs. Hammond on the Canal Road, as the intersection of 46, I believe, in Canal Road. And by Mrs., by the Perry Road and Godfrey Road intersection. This is Shirley here. Have any discussion with the board or any action that would like to see?
You're just looking for a corner light, right?
Yeah, this is a
Sorry,
light
not a
intersection,
traffic.
street light intersection.
Is there lighting?
So we got a form of lighting district for,
These have become part of the town lighting districts.
and residents in that area will absorb the cost, or this is a town?
Town-wide cost.
Townwide, yeah.
The problem with it is it makes life pleasant for them.
Town-wide. So we have a motion that's made to accept these, to proceed with these lights.
Is there, just out of curiosity, because I live in one of those areas that would love something like this, is there a prerequisite to that type of request? Because this first time in 3 years it's, well, I mean, I think it's a great idea, but there's a lot more places where.
Yes, and as mentioned tonight, Glenn had one that he would have put on here too, if he had been aware of that.
What is the cost? Do we have an idea of what it costs to put the light in and then maintain it or to keep it electrified for a year? Is there
Well,
a dollar figure here? Because as I understand it, there's two more requests going to be in there.
Do they meter,
It could be.
they meter the pole or what?
I'm not sure. Bill has the information on this, and I wasn't able to see.
The only thing
I guess just out of curiosity, maybe we ought to find out.
Let me put a hold on that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, and I think everybody does. The one thing is that, for example, in our intersection where, and the one thing we brought up probably 3 years ago about that, they said that the only way that we could do it at that time, the previous, Mr. Boyles was actually the supervisor, that the only way that we could do that was to form our own lighting district, and we would be responsible for the costs in that area. And it couldn't get everybody on the road. I had like 2 holdouts, so we don't know
Yeah, but
sort of stuff.
Dave, you're talking about up and down the street?
No,
Just a single light?
Twins
Center, where Center Road intersects with Twins, because it's an gully there, you can't see anything.
I'll have Billy give me more information.
I know when they,
He'll be here tonight.
they talked about the
I don't-
development.
And to be honest, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of areas out there that need that type of thing, and,
We don't have any idea what it's gonna cost us. Anything
no,
more.
I have no idea. And I think it's a great idea, and if it's a whole town cost, that's fine, but I think we ought to look into, you know, is this something that maybe we should be looking at, you know, other areas that might, you know, might require something?
Some of them do. You know, and there's not, doesn't
Well,
seem
we
to be a
don't-
whole lot of rhyme or reason as to why.
Yeah, I know.
One
maybe-
has it and the next
think
one
it's
doesn't.
We
Who
can
asked
make
it?
the whole town one lighting district and then put them wherever you want, the roads in the district. And then it becomes the same as the general.
Maybe that's what Bill was talking about. I don't know.
That might, actually, that might be a more logical step.
But before we approve this, I think we ought to hold it for a while. I'll tell you what, I think that we don't have a cost figure on each one of these, either one of these, which could mean, this could generate 10 more requests. And then,
Yeah.
at least one more. And I think we ought to know a cost, because you know, we don't know what the impact on the budget's going to be.
And we can table
We
that.
may have to, maybe,
Okay, next item, request by the tax receiver to go to a conference. You have the information there that this, because,
I thought we did that.
no, she was not aware of the conference and therefore was not budgeted, so it needs to be,
I'll move in.
second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Also have a similar request from the highway department that is budgeted to attend the highway school the first week of June in Cornell.
So much.
Second. Discussion?
I didn't get the second, Brandon.
Thank you.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We also have a request from the highway department to pass a resolution for them to purchase a state bid, stone, asphalt, and pipe. Have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the only item that I have is to make the board aware of Mr. Paul Van Dyke, our Assistant Code Enforcement Officer, has been hired by the village, and he will be starting his new job the first day of June. So this job has been advertised by Bill's department. Is there any more the board would?
I deny him his resignation. It's not, it's, until he files it with the town clerk, I don't think it's official, right?
Well, he's not gonna retire until the first day of June, and we need somebody on the job by the first day of June, I don't think.
Well, you can advertise, you just can't tell.
Okay.
I mean, it could be so effective before you.
Anything else the board would like to bring at this time? Yep. Mr. Dunn, trustee from the village, is here this evening, representing the village to the town meetings. Is that correct? And we are going to meet with you